Thanks for coming. We'll go through champions quickly. You got wide receivers Curtis Samuel playing at a very, very high level, doing everything well, blocking and obviously running and catching. Very, very talented player. Paris Campbell is also one of our most valuable players just because of his value in the special teams. I mean, he makes tackles on kickoff. He's one of the best gunners in the country. He's turning out to be he only had a couple kick return opportunities since we put him back there, but just got a lot of respect for Paris. And Terry McLaurin's also a program guy that it was great to see him score a touchdown, and very valuable player for us. Marcus Ball played his best game as an Ohio State Buckeye, gave his best effort. He graded a champion. And offensive line, you had all five guys, looks like. Yeah, all five guys graded out champions and did well. Dominated the line of scrimmage. And player of the game, J.T. Barrett, they obviously setting the record at a school such as Ohio State with so many great players that have traveled these hallways. And then the other player of the game is Mike Weber. 14 carries, 144 yards, and playing very hard and doing good things without the bonus hands as well. On defense, you had a bunch of them. Jalen Hubbard and Taekwon at defensive end. You had Chris Worley. And then the back end, you had Garyon, Marshawn, Denzel, and Malik Hooker. Played very, very well. And we gave the player of the game to the entire defense to hold a team to 116 total yards. Special teams, I think I left it on my desk. Special teams. Damon Arnett. Thank you, Jerry. Damon Arnett did exceptional. Kickoff team answered the challenge. They took it all week now. They got it for a while or I guess 2 weeks since we lost. We gave up a big one to Oklahoma, so we worked real hard at it. And guys, Rashad Berry, Eric Glover, and Damon Arnett were outstanding. So I'll answer any questions for you.
Start over here to the right, Clay.
JT related the story, I think his first spring ball, and he threw a screen pass. It was miserable, he said, and you got all over him. That just stuck with him in terms of his evolution. Do you remember that comment by chance?
So all the nice things we say to JT doesn't stick with him, just the bad things. I'll have a chat with JT about that. I thought you were going to say one of the great things. No, I'm just kidding you. I do not remember that. I do remember, and it's well documented, that there's so much trust. He's the first quarterback we've signed that I've never seen throw. Right. Think about that for a minute. I'm the first quarterback, and since I was a head coach, that I said I would never do that. But it was one of those years where guys were committing early, and I really, a lot of faith. And to say I trusted Tom, I didn't trust Tom because I didn't know Tom. But I've had a lot of faith in him, and then Trent Dilfer really helped with that as well. Yeah, JT, and he struggled, but it wasn't fair. He was hurt. He missed most of his senior year with a bad knee, and but he's turned into a great player.
One other quickie. I don't get that many reps in here. You went over 1 million followers on Twitter. When we sat down in the preseason, you said, "I want to lead the league and lead the nation in social media."
I said that?
Yeah, you did. You said,
I never said that. I don't care about social media.
Yeah, you did. You said, we understand that Clemson is very good and we want to be better.
Oh, it was a program.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I didn't say I want to. No, yes, absolutely. And I think, okay. You're absolutely true. And that's why we hired some people and we made that office what it is right now.
What do you think of that platform to have 1 million people follow you?
If it helps us sign a good player, that's great. If it doesn't, I don't care.
Front row middle, Dave.
You've said when it comes to leadership, Tim Tebow is the gold standard. I'm just curious, how close is JT
Very close.
to that level? Yeah,
JT's in his own way is exactly on the same level as Tim, and those are two elite leaders. And there's some other guys that, but I mean, yeah, JT's certainly at that level.
And then how'd you guys emerge from the game injury-wise?
Boy, let's see. I think we're pretty good. KJ Hill's getting close. Book, I'd put him at probable. Dante Booker. Obviously, you heard the injury about Demetrius Knox. I think that was before the Rutgers game. And he's out for several weeks. Other than that, I think we're good.
Second row, Ben.
Irvin, you just listed a bunch of champions, and not just those guys, but the roster in general. Are you surprised how quickly some of these guys are picking it up this early into the season?
I don't like the word surprise. That's really disrespectful, and not realizing that we have talented guys. I think it's great. I'm excited to get out for another day of practice, because that's one thing about young players. There's such a ceiling that they have so much room for improvement. That Ben Victor played in that game. If you said 3 weeks ago Ben Victor's going to play, and he had a hard time lining up, didn't go hard, and kind of quit in the middle of plays. Now all of a sudden he's a guy now. He's going to be a hell of a player here. So I just, once again, at any time, and that's not just this team, but the young players, you just really enjoy coaching them, because once, as you say, the game slows down, you start to see some terrific players develop.
I mean, is that recruiting at work that you guys can enter a season as the most inexperienced team in the country? And
that's part of it. There's 2 phases. One's recruiting, and then a group of 9 coaches and a strength coach that's second to none, that just grinds them and develops them and pushes them. And the culture that within the units is a big thing that happens around here. So all the above, but obviously it starts with recruiting.
Front row right, Austin.
Irvin, when you look at Mike Weber, do you see more Carlos Hyde in him or more Zeke?
More Carlos. Yeah.
Why?
Oh, he's a banger. He's a thumper, and he's a plus yardage guy most of the time, and Zeke was too. Doesn't have the top end that Zeke has. We're working on that, but he's. And Carlos, great back. I mean, we've been lucky, we've been fortunate. I think Mike falls right in that category.
That top end, you said you were going to tease him about that yesterday, getting caught on the one long run. How do you, I mean, is that just more time in the weight room? How would you improve something like that?
Yeah, just keep working. Sometimes he's just not Zeke was a national level high hurdler in the 110s, and Mike's not. But Mike also has great feet, great power, and that's why I just compare a little bit more closer to Carlos Hyde.
Front row right, Tim.
Yeah, Irvin, when you look at your offensive line, Isaiah Prince in particular, has he made huge strides over the last several games? What have you seen from him?
Huge strides, and just consistency. He's grown up. He's a great guy to be around. He's very mature now. Was very immature a year ago, and his growth and development. And I credit obviously our stud, but I also think Pat Elflein and Billy Price are pivotal in that kind of development of players.
I'm sure you've watched Indiana, some video in Indiana, and you saw their video from the other night. As I said in the paper this morning, they suddenly have a D. What do you see? What do you see when you watch them? Do you see an improved defense? What just jumps out at you about them?
I see an outstanding team. We've had our journey. Was it our 5th year for 4 years in a row? I mean, it's been a swing as hard as you can, because that game's going to be. And this is by far their best team, and that's being very respectful of the other teams that we played against. I think they got an excellent coaching staff. You can see some really positive, really good things on videotape. And they played their game Saturday. That was a great win for that program.
Front row right, Rob.
Urban, speaking of Indiana, how closely do you pay attention to comparative scoring? I know you look at the game that week, but do you look around the country at all to see what other teams are doing and maybe what the score is and how that relates to maybe?
Yeah, I learned that. Tom Herman was so good at that. If I see North Carolina, for example, I'll flip on their film and watch a couple series, and I'll have we have plenty of interns and GAs cut me up this Oklahoma State thing, and so we do explosive offenses. Tom would do that constantly. I'd come in and he'd be watching Oregon. He'd come in just for. And I think it's called professional development. I challenge our coaches all the time now to do that. I do that. And you come up with some great ideas.
Back to Michael Weber real quick. I assume you had a talk with him, not to try to be Zeke. Maybe you didn't. How do you handle that when a guy's coming in?
Oh, the opposite. We, not so much, because we're so such an emphasis here about the selfless play, and that Zeke had a reputation of being arguably the best tailback in a couple decades as far as blocking and things without the ball. So we actually want him to be a lot like Zeke and use that as examples quite often.
You said he's working off the ball too, the other things.
He's doing really well. Yeah, his protection is outstanding. His effort is really pleased what he's turned into.
Third row left, Eric.
I think this season you guys have scored a touchdown within the final 2 minutes of the first half in every single game. One of them was the pick six against Tulsa, but I think that's more than any time that you did last year, like more times.
Is there anything that you're doing differently at that point?
I think JT just managing the ball very well. We're keeping our guys fresh. I think Coach Smith has got a nice little rotation of receivers. You're playing guys 25, 30 plays, not 65. And just the wear and tear, usually that happens at the end of a half and the end of a game because you're just the logistics of the game or the timing of the game. So I think you're seeing fresher legs. We look very fast at the end of the first half now as opposed to if the guy's played 35 plays and he's kind of blown out right before halftime.
Far left there, Lori.
Coach, you guys were never under the radar this season, but with the success that your team has experienced so far, how different is your challenge psychologically with this team than it was at the beginning of the year?
I was worried going into this past game. We had a bye week, and they had 2 weeks to hear about how they played well against Oklahoma. They were challenged pretty harshly by myself and our staff, and there's very good leaders on this team. So I told them I've tested them about 5 or 6 times already since, whether it be a day off at practice or during training camp or let them move out of the hotel day, all kinds of I just test them a little bit to see if they answer the challenges, and they've done a very nice job. And that's a credit to, because normally 17-year-olds can't make those decisions because they don't know, but they follow the leadership of the team, and if the leaders do the right thing, then normally you'll see the nice development of players. If your leaders in your team are idiots and that you have problems, then you got a problem.
Far left there, Mitch.
Last year, at times, early, it was hard to get everything clicking at the same time, and there was some struggling. This year, it seems like you got the train rolling full speed early. What's the difference?
I think anytime you have a very good defense and you're getting that ball back quite often. Offensively, Tulsa wasn't exactly a thing of beauty the first quarter and a half, but the defense hung around. Anytime you have great defense, that's just the way the game of football is. You have great defense, things are going to get usually rolling for you at some point, even if you struggle a little bit. And then the fact that you have JT Barrett running the show, it's pretty smooth. He's even when he makes a mistake, it's not usually it's not an awful one, and we can rally right back up. But it starts with defense.
Second row left, Ari.
Urban, another Mike Weber question. I think that the beginning of his tenure here at Ohio State kind of got off to a rocky start with the way things went with Michigan and the high-profile signing day stuff. I was wondering, obviously you guys got through that with Thomas Wilcher and everything pretty quickly, but when a player goes through something like that, how does that kind of impact their way they acclimate to the program? And was it a little bit more difficult with Mike, especially coming from the fact that he's from Detroit and the other school was Michigan? What do you remember about the process of him becoming more comfortable here at Ohio State after all that?
I remember it was like a day and a half and I was shocked when it all took place. And I called their high school coach. We had a very honest conversation. This is how it occurred. And we have some pretty good built-up bank with high school coaches that this is the way we operate. We don't do things that are going to disrupt young people. So, it was over. I think it carried on for a little bit, maybe here, but not. Mike was great. Mike came in the spring. Within a day or two, everything was done, and that had zero impact once he started showing up here and getting ready to go.
Okay, one follow-up, unrelated. Robert Landers has seemed to be playing very well. You guys need somebody to step up on that interior defensive line, and from what we've seen, it seems like he's really made an impact for you. How has he been able to make an impact so quickly?
Yeah, he's was very active in Saturday's game. Obviously, he's got a little size issue. He's just a littler guy, but he's quick. He's twitched up, and Larry's really doing a good job with him. So he's certainly in the rotation. We do need to. Draymond needs to continue to improve. They're all young players in there, other than Mike Hill. So to answer your question, he's been really good, and we anticipate he'll continue to get better.
Far right over here, Nick.
When you look at the wide receiver rotation, have you been able to use them like you would like hockey lines, and you can mix and match them based on what you're seeing in the game and what you?
Yeah. I don't micromanage that too much. There's a couple guys in my mind that when you're ready to call a certain play, I'll want in there. But skill sets aren't that different, and it's nice to have a good, healthy dose of them.
Or 35 snaps. Is that just about freshness, or about seeing that you have that many guys that you think should play?
No, that's a great question. The way we play, and it's a little bit like the corner position right now. We play zero man. I mean, you can call it quarters or whatever it is, but those corners are on an island. And basically what you do, you show up at practice every day, you tape your ankles, and you run for 2.5 hours. In the game, what do? You simply go run for 2.5 hours, and the wear and tear on bodies. And so Kerry's been very good at, very diligent about the number of plays. I want to say our corners played 25 plays Saturday. I think we held them to 50-some plays, but okay, say it's 30 plays, that's fine. It's when you start getting the 80, 90s like we've had around here, because the backup's not very good or not prepared to step into that role. You have to drop off significantly, you can't take him out. And same with Joey Boat, he played 85 plays. That's just the absolute wear and tear on you. So the rotation really helps.
And final questions, far left, Matt.
I know you want to be balanced, you always talk about that, but when you're running the ball as well as you are, how much do you even, Oklahoma game, you almost rushed for 300, you only threw for 150. Are you okay with that because you ran it so well?
Sure.
How do you balance that with, pass plays, rush plays, when you're running
Well, that's kind of my thing, and I'll even stare at our scoreboard and see that certain times of the game that we have to, because it'll come back. You can't say we're going to run the ball, because at some point we learned a lesson in that rainstorm last year against Michigan State. You can stop the run. We're going to face some teams that can stop the run. That doesn't mean you give up on it. That means you have to be balanced and make them pay the price if they're going to put everybody up there to stop the run. So there's no doubt that you have to be balanced, and I watch that very closely.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you.